Here, we got slightly out of order here with the roll call, but we have the pleasure tonight of doing the administration of the oath of office for our two new council members, Kevin Staunton and Bob Stewart. So Clerk Mangan will take care of that swearing-in ceremony, and we'll do it down in front. And I think if Councilmember Stewart and Councilmember Staunton could go down in front, and then we're going to have a chance for, if family members are here, I see some family members come up and have some photos afterwards. So,
okay, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Kevin Staunton.
I, Kevin Staunton.
Do solemnly swear under oath.
Do solemnly swear under oath.
That I will support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
And of the state of Minnesota.
And of the state of Minnesota.
And faithfully discharge the duties.
And faithfully discharge the duties.
Of the office of council member.
Of the office of council member.
In the city of Edina.
In the city of Edina.
Of the county of Hennepin.
County of Hennepin.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I, Robert Stewart.
I, Robert Stewart.
Do solemnly swear under oath.
Do solemnly swear under oath.
That I will support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution.
Of the United States of America.
Of the United States of America.
And of the state of Minnesota.
And of the state of Minnesota.
And faithfully discharge the duties.
And faithfully discharge the duties.
Of the office of council member.
Of the office of council member.
In the city of Edina.
In the city of Edina.
Of the county of Hennepin.
Of the county of Hennepin.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
To the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
now photos. Family members, would you like to come up? You can do photos together, separately.
You guys have to hug your dad. Okay, I'm going to be in two groups this year. We'll do your photos first. All right, be a little tighter.
One more time. We got some wonderful service out of Joni Bennett and Josh Sprague, and we expect the same with these two new council members. I think so many people in the community know both of them and wish them all the best, and we welcome them to the council and really look forward to working with them as we proceed onward, trying to make Edina an ever better place to live. All right, now I think what I should do, just for official purposes, is go back through roll call again when we got them officially sworn in here. So let's do roll call one more time.
Member Brindle.
Aye.
Member Staunton.
Here.
Still here.
Member Staunton.
Here.
Member Stewart.
Here.
Member Swenson.
Here.
Mayor Hovland.
Here. We've got in front of us this evening a form of meeting agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to make a change with the scope of the meeting agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve
So moved.
the meeting agenda.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the form of meeting agenda in front of us this evening. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. And then we have a consent agenda with quite a few items on it this evening as we begin another year. Is there anyone on the council that wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda?
N and R.
And
N?
N is your.
Yep. N is one I was going to remove. R?
I think
Okay.
it was Brindle's, too.
And then I would like P. I have a
P.
question about
Oh,
that
P,
one.
I had a question on P as well.
Okay.
Nobody had any question on Q? Okay. All right, with the exception of N, P, and R, is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So
So
moved.
moved.
We had a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. And then the first one was item 5N, and that is the Edina Public Schools Community Education Services Board appointment. I think one of our newer members is interested in.
Right.
that
Member
particular
Brindle
matter.
and I are interested in potentially appointing someone at the same time that we approve the spot. And I know that new member Stoughton is interested in serving in that, but I haven't.
Kevin and I have talked about
Okay. So I would make a motion that we would appoint Kevin Stoughton as our council member to the Edina Public Schools Community Ed Services Board.
Is there a second? All right, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. And then Member Brindle, item P.
Item P, which is the Cornelia Drive sidewalk. Is Mark Nolan here, or Chad, or am I asking you my question? I did ask questions and got answers today, and late today got a letter that asked a question. So I thought I would ask the question from the letter. And that is that currently the Cornelia Drive sidewalk is proposed for the east side of the street from 70th to 68th. And am I saying it wrong?
It's the reverse.
From 66
Okay, on
to
the west side of the, okay, thank you. All right, here we go.
West side, 70th and 68th.
All right, here it is. Okay, so the west side of
Could you
Cornelia.
center that, please, Director Milner? Thank you.
There we go. The sidewalk, the blue line, is proposed starting at 70th Street, which is at the top.
70th Street's on the bottom.
At the bottom?
Yep.
Okay,
So
70th
west
Street,
side up to
oh, yeah, I got
68th.
it. Okay, so 70th Street at the bottom, there is a sidewalk stub on the east side of Cornelia Drive. So the sidewalk is proposed to go
There's
along
a
the-
sidewalk stub on the west side.
on the west side, up to 68th, at which time there would be a crosswalk to the east side, and then continue north to what is currently a sidewalk stub to a crosswalk to Roslyn Park. So the questioner asks, why can't we put the crossing to the east side at 70th and have the sidewalk all on the east side?
Yep, Mayor, members of the council, we're starting to look at, we have an opportunity to get some grant funding. So we're just looking at design of this sidewalk. We did a rough drive-through and a couple walkthroughs of impacts, like we talk about with the sidewalks, trees, fire hydrants, steep driveways, utility poles. And when we counted up impacts on these segments, this is what fell out with the least amount of impacts to our own utility systems, but more importantly, the residential.
To the residents.
The trees. The reason we think it's a good idea to cross at 68th versus up at 66th is this is a controlled intersection, three-way stop at 68th. If we run it up the west side all the way, we would have the pedestrians crossing on a curve at an uncontrolled spot there. So we don't think that's a good idea to cross. So again, it's the east side down between 68th and 70 just has more impacts than the west side.
Okay,
And we're completing our final design here during the winter months. And hopefully in March, we'll find out about the grant application and we'll know more if we get additional funding through
Great.
MnDOT's program.
thank you.
Mary, if I may follow up.
Okay.
I think the questioner had asked whether the sidewalk could remain on the east side the entire way from 66 to 70th and then cross from the east side to the west side only up at 70th, which is the opposite of what you said.
Well, it could go on the east side. There's
Right.
more impacts, more
Right.
steep driveways,
Right.
more trees, more hydrants. There's a big shrub right at 70th. We couldn't take advantage of that existing sidewalk that's already on the west side, just north of 70th Street. So it comes down to, it's going to be more expensive, it's going to be more impacts to the residents out there and more impacts to our utility
Right.
system.
But I
So it
also
can be
understand
done.
that the engineering study is not yet completed.
Correct.
And so there may be some things that are discovered during this engineering study that impact the final design.
Correct. We haven't completed that final design yet. Yep.
All right, Member Swenson.
Two things. I know that when we looked at this sidewalk originally during the street reconstruction of the street, at that point it was projected to be on the east side. Two, I would like to state that I don't think that that little stub of a sidewalk coming off of 70th is worth deciding that would be on the west side. I would say that we would want a sidewalk potentially on both sides for that one block till it gets to, is it Bristol? What's the crossroad right there?
Dunbury.
Dunbury.
Only, this is a Safe Routes to School project. We've got kids coming from both sides, potentially to go across at this intersection because it's flagged with a light during school days. So my goal in doing this is, one, that it's a safe routes from school to the park and a safe routes in from the neighborhood. But this last block, I think, is incredibly important. And so if there's a potential for putting the sidewalk on both sides of that block to make it safer for the kids coming from both sides, then I would support that.
All right, I've got a comment too. I think Member Stewart raised it earlier here, and that is that what we're doing is applying for a grant, and you have to have some sort of a tentative plan to apply for the grant. This may not be the final design because there's still a lot of input that you're going to be taking. You've had some from the neighborhood, but I think council members you've just heard here in this short period of time have some ideas that are worth considering. I also like the idea of the east side better than the west side for a variety of reasons I'll discuss when we get to the appropriate time. But the point is that we're trying to get some funding for this sidewalk. Its final design is yet to be determined, and that's the purpose of this resolution tonight, is to have the council authorize staff to apply for this Safe Routes to School grant. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
And to Member Swenson's comment about it was designed for the east side, when you do it as part of a street recon, you have a lot more opportunities to move utilities around and curbs and stuff like that. So
Thank you.
It's the retrofit that we're having an issue here with.
Yeah, I do notice when I drive down there that all of the hydrants are now on the east side and
Right about where you want the
and quite
sidewalk.
frequent. So that is a challenge. So understanding that the engineering final design work and the balance of the construction costs are yet to be determined, and that the purpose of this resolution is to apply for Safe Routes to School program infrastructure funds. Is there a motion to move this matter on?
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2015-10, which shows up as an item, agenda item 5P. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. All right. Next matter that we pulled, Member Swenson, it is our reappointments to advisory boards, commissions, and committees.
Sure. I'd like to read a list of reappointments, and then that list will then be my motion for it. So for Arts and Culture Commission, Ray Meffert, Candace Ellis, Dana Lappin. Board of Appeal and Equalization, Alex Slichter, Scott Smith, Ron Anderson. Community Health Commission, Kristen Connor. Construction Board of Appeals, Scott Busen. Energy and Environment Commission, Sarah Zarin. Heritage Preservation Board, Jennifer Christensen, Robert Moore, Peter Sussman. Human Rights and Relations Commission, Pat Arsenault. Thank you. Laura Davis. Park Board, Dan Gillespie, Susan Jacobson. There's none for the Planning Commission at this time. And the Transportation Commission, Tom LaForce, Syria Iyer.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you need me then, after making the reappointments, then we will have vacancies, but those are our reappointments, so that is my motion.
Just a friendly, I'm not sure, under Community Health Commission, I heard Dana Lappin's name.
No, she
that's
actually,
wrong.
if you
She
see
belongs
on
under
your
Arts and Culture.
dais, she was listed incorrectly
I'm
under
sorry.
the wrong one. So we moved her up to Arts and Culture, where she is currently serving and chooses to keep serving.
All right, we have Member Swenson's motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We had a motion and a second to adopt the,
Could we add to the motion the Edina Housing Foundation on the next page?
Did I miss?
It's
Oh,
on the-
I missed
it's on the
that.
back
You're right.
page.
Could I then include as a friendly amendment Jeff Huggart and Jim Nelson for the Edina Housing Foundation?
all right, seconder is
Second.
comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right. So we've got the designated reappointments to the Arts and Culture Commission, Heritage Preservation Board, Board of Appeal and Equalization, Human Rights and Relations, Community Health Commission, Park Board, Construction Board of Appeals, Planning Commission, Energy and Environment Commission, Transportation Commission, and the Edina Housing Foundation.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the slate as proposed by Member Swenson say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Carried. And we will correspond with all of those folks. All right. We're on to the next portion of the agenda, which is special recognitions and presentations. I don't believe we have any this evening,
No, we missed.
other than the important installation of our two new council members.
I think you wanted T. Item T.
Did-
P.
Member
No,
Brindle, you didn't
nobody-
want to take T off? Oh,
No, it was
okay.
P.
Oh, it was P.
P.
T.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to community comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and address the council on a matter of concern that's not otherwise on the agenda this evening? Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, my name is Floyd Grable. I'm a resident of Edina at 4817 Wilford Way. I noted in last week's Star Trib on the West Extra, there was an article on the, Mark Bernardson, who is the city manager of Bloomington, and he is retiring after 23 years as manager at Bloomington. The article noted that he started his career as an assistant city manager here in Edina. And one of the things that he's quoted as saying in the article is, if a community is not moving forward in this fast-changing world, it will fall behind. And I just thought that was good wisdom as we're starting a new council session, a new year to think about. Edina has always done very well with protecting its neighborhoods, improving its commercial nodes, but every time there are development plans, particularly with commercials, well, either ones, there are people who complain about it, but the city has to take a positive, forward-looking view for rational development on the commercial nodes. I'm sure there were some people that would still like to see the Ford garage, the sand pit, and the drive-in theater at the bottom of France, but we've done much better than that over the past few years. So just to repeat what Mr. Bernardson had said, if a community is not moving forward in this fast-changing world, it will fall behind, and we certainly don't want to see Edina fall behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graybill. Anyone else in the community comment portion of the agenda? Good evening and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you. My name is Ronald Rich. I live at 7008 West Shore Drive. First, I want to congratulate the two new council members. And I would assume you've gone through the lecture about you're the board member and we have the CEO over here that runs the city as an administrator. I have the same concerns that I had a month ago. I'm speaking a little more roughly because I came back from China. If you look at densification, that's a good spot to go. Air pollution is bad, so I'll be a little bit of a choppiness here. But the issue still, and especially for the two new members, administration of the city is a great thing, a great responsibility. I fear many times that the information provided to the council from the city is not the information that really should be presided. We have an example that I may or may not be able to mention, but in that particular example, residents overwhelmingly, documentedly, citywide, don't want something. I won't say what the something is. Yet the city administration goes ahead and approves these things, recommends it, but then the worst thing of all, claims that the city does want it. It's not true. And when it's not true, I get really nervous. That's where board members, if you're truly the board members, need to call the city on those. They are presenting many times, not always, actually probably not even often, but only when they want their agenda carried through, wrong information, misleading information, anecdotal information that doesn't actually match facts. Bothers the heck out of me. And it's not transparent. And for this particular kinds of issues, I have no understanding at all as a citizen why something is being approved with data that has no bearing or is totally false. It bothers me, again, no end that this kind of an issue continues. People support it. They accept it. Please, as you're going through this, question the administration. Question the information you're getting. It isn't always true. Thank you very much, and welcome to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. Anyone else for community comment?
Good. I'd like to echo what Ron was saying and welcome the two new council members. My name is Art Thelman. I live at 5132 Valley View Road. And I want to talk a little bit tonight about the Park and Rec survey that was done by the ETC Institute and Ron Vine presented to the council. Guess that's not going to show up as nice as I wanted. This slide represents question 8, which is a two-part question, and it pertained to the 1,222 residents who did respond to the survey, asking them their need for walking and bike trails. And you can see by the color blue that somewhere between 60 and 100% of the residents who filled out the survey were in favor of walking and biking trails. But it was a two-part question, and the two-part question was, if that's your need, how well is that need being met? And in my quadrant, which is right here, 75 to 100% of the need for walking and biking trails is being met. And I should also point out the areas in yellow are neighborhoods where they said that less than 50% or less of their need was being met. This is a very, very long question. The next one was percentage of you who, same 1,222 people who wanted nature trails. And this is my neighborhood right here. So 81 to 100% of my neighbors wanted nature trails, felt that their bike and walking trails needs were being met, but this is my neighborhood again, felt that the access to nature trails wasn't enough. So what we've proposed, and I sent it to Mr. Miller, and he correctly told me that when we first proposed this alternative Birchcrest multi-use trail, that I said, well, can we just put that trail in? And there is not enough room right now to meet the 5-foot easement and the 5-foot sidewalk. Is that correct, Chad? I think I got that right. And so what we're proposing is this land runs right adjacent to DOT land, and my street is right here, and it connects on to Maddox. And you can see this rather circuitous route it takes versus Benton, which is a straight shot to Countryside, City Park, straight shot down 60th. But Birchcrest is this neighborhood right here. There are no city parks. There are no other recreational facilities. So we propose working with the DOT to see if we can get this land, because this is what the trail looks like. This road right here is Will Ryan, goes over to Roberts. And the reason we like that stretch of land, if I can see that, there are no homes on either side of this on Will Ryan. It's all nature. This is the continuation of Will Ryan on Roberts. Again, we'd put it over here, and the DOT land is right behind these trees. Again, there are no homes. You get down to the only crossing bridge because of those railroad tracks that go up the entire east or west side of the Birchcrest development. Again, no homes. So you're not sending people, as proposed on the Normandale sidewalk. The Normandale sidewalk is being proposed to go on the west side. There are no homes here. But the problem is at 60th, this is identified crash zone where we're going to send pedestrian bicycle people across here. It's a crash zone. This corner by Normandale Community Church, Lutheran Church, this is a crash zone, and this is the crash zone on either side of that curve. So if you can look at this road, we're going to push a sidewalk through 3 crash zones with pedestrians and bicyclists on the same sidewalk. And that's my time.
All right. Thank you, Art. Thanks. I don't think our lighting system is working properly this evening. I noticed for Mr. Rich, he didn't get a go light. He didn't use in excess of 3 minutes, but he didn't.
Can I leave a copy of our proposed trail for everybody?
Yeah, that would be good if you'd leave it with the clerk. Art, we'll get copies made and everybody can look at that. Thank you.
I think I brought enough.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anyone else have a concern that they want to raise with the council this evening in public comment or a question they want to ask? Okay. We will move on to the reports and recommendations portion of the agenda. First item there is a resolution accepting various donations.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to adopt resolution 2015-8 accepting various donations. Any further discussion on that?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. For those of you in the audience, if we get a donation to the city council has to approve it before it can be accepted by state law. So this reporting period, there was a donation to some donations for public art in Edina, including a public utility checkoff from folks in our community that wanted to contribute money for public art. And then the Edina Fire Department got a nice grant from the NC Little Memorial Hospice in the amount of $1,250. And those amounts will be posted on the website. The public utility checkoff amount for 2014 was $2,745.62. All right. Now, setting the date for annual board and commission meetings, it's been proposed, I think, that the matter be set for April 20th for the annual meeting with members of the city's boards and commissions. Does anyone has a concern about that particular date?
I won't be able to stay the whole time, but I recognize we're having a great difficulty finding a date that works for everybody, so I'm not inclined to get in the way of it.
Okay. It works for everybody else. Usually starts about 5 o'clock, I think.
We don't have a location, I noticed, though, did we yet?
We don't yet. That's TBD.
Okay.
But is it, she secured Centennial?
Okay.
Centennial Lakes? Okay. So is there someone who would move that we set the annual meeting with boards and commissions for Centennial Lakes for the Centrum for April 20th at 5 o'clock?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to that effect? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. And then we are on to item 8C, which is the request for the authorization for bids for the Braemar Golf Course project, and Park and Rec Director Catry has this matter.
Mayor Hovland, members of the council, thank you for hearing us this evening. I have a few members of my team here that will be prepared to make a couple of presentations and then stand to answer any questions when we're through. Tonight we're going to be asking for a bid authorization for the Braemar Golf Course, driving range, and executive course renovation project. And the first person that I would like to introduce this evening is John Schmenk. John is a landscape golf course architect for Herford Norby Company, and he's going to give an overview of the driving range and executive course renovation proposal, and I will pass it off to John.
Thank you, Director Catry. Welcome, and would you give us your name and business address, please?
Sure. My name is John Schmenk, and I'm with Herford Norby Golf Course Architects. We're located down in Chaska, Minnesota. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to present here to the council and to Mr. Mayor here. What you might have in your packet, and what I have a copy here on the screen, is a graphic of the proposed renovation for the Braemar golf course. And I'd like to give a quick preview or a brief introduction as to what exactly it is that we are doing. And so if you could, there's actually three portions to this project, and I'll break it up that way. First is the driving range itself, and then we have some site improvements that we're doing around the clubhouse. And then third, we're taking what was an existing executive golf course and converting it into a par 3 golf course. Starting with the driving range project, one of the things that we're doing here is increasing the depth of the driving range. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason is a safety issue. Back when this driving range was developed, and it's kind of gone through a lot of different stages over the years, the technology in golf was not where it is today. Golfers are hitting the ball a lot further, and the way the current range sits right now, it puts people who are taking lessons on the far end of the driving range. It puts them in a dangerous situation from those daily users who are on the main tee down here by the range clubhouse and hitting their ball. So one of the things we're proposing here is to increase the depth of the range. Currently it sits at about 240 to 280 yards in depth, and we're going to be increasing that to about 310 to 370. Now when I say 310 to 370, the 310 would be the front of this tee to the front of the lesson tee in the back. And that's a safe distance for today's technology, though golfers are hitting the ball over 300 yards through just general management of the range. If people are on the back end of the driving range, the front part of the main driving range, people could be stationed a little bit further back in case there's a wind that would bring the ball that far. So another thing that we're doing too is increasing the overall size of the driving range. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on, the situation there right now, but the driving range is it's pretty old and it's in pretty rough shape. The turf quality is not very good. There's not very good drainage or irrigation. And so we're increasing the overall space of the range so that as the golfers use it, they can move forward, move back, allowing the turf to heal. So there's an adequate spot for the grass to continue to grow. And this is a driving range that's probably one of the more popular driving ranges in the metro area. And so we're increasing the width of it too, so there'd be more stalls, more stations for people to use and hit golf balls, which hopefully would generate more revenue as well. The current range, along with on the back side of the driving range, are some areas of concrete and asphalt where it's used as an all-weather tee line. What that means is that during inclement weather or when the grass is growing in the spring, people can move back and play off of mats, and they can hit the golf ball off of mats instead of turf. Well, we're still going to keep that same idea, but we're going to make it a more uniform shape and try to get more stalls so that in the springtime more people can go out and hit before the grass is ready for people to hit on. Okay, some aesthetic reasons that we're making some changes is we're going to provide some target greens out there right now. You can sort of see these spots right here. It gives golfers something to hit and aim at and judge how well they're hitting the golf ball. It's a form of practice. Likewise, we're going to have some bunkers out there, which are not going to act like typical sand bunkers where you actually go and hit out of them. They're more like just target bunkers to gauge your shot as well. And they're going to be pretty flat, so a ball picker can still run through there, so it doesn't require a lot of extra maintenance. Another thing too is we are going to try to improve the aesthetics by getting rid of a lot of the unsightly things that are out there. Right now there's some utility poles. There's some chain link fencing that's in rough shape. A lot of the paving around the clubhouse and around the range tee, whether it's concrete or asphalt, is crumbling and falling apart. So all that's going to be replaced. We're going to increase areas for staging, for golf cart staging, for those that use golf carts. And so that's kind of an overview of the practice range facility itself. But one of the things that this does by enlarging it is it starts to creep into the existing golf course that's there now, the par 3 or the executive golf course. And by increasing the depth, there's 2 golf holes that sit right back in this vicinity. Those are no longer going to be able to be used, so we needed to incorporate the new golf holes over on the par 3 golf course. And that's one of the reasons that we're sort of shortening it too, is that there's just not the land to have par 4s. But we also think that this is a great stepping stone for people to learn the game of golf and then move from there over to the 18-hole golf course or the 27-hole golf course. And so we're going to make this very user-friendly. But those who do are a better golfer or want more of a challenge, there are back tees that allow them to play from that back tee and get a little bit more challenge. But the golf course, currently this is hole number 1, and that whole location is not changing, but everything about the golf hole will change. There'll be new golf tees. There's going to be new green, new turf in the fairway, in the rough, a new sand bunker. And then we're going to, then from here, instead there used to be some golf holes over here, then we'll cross over the bridge and play to hole number 2. Hole number 2 is also in the same location as the golf hole that sat there now. The difference here is that we are going to have additional tee space. And then we're also going to widen the corridor a little bit. For those that have been out there and those that golf, you'll know there's a lot of trees that are overhanging, and that kind of creates a situation for golfers that's not ideal. The chute that they have to play the golf hole in is very tight. So we're going to widen that out a little bit, rebuild the golf green in the fairway and the rough. But then we get up to the hillside here. Here's a new golf hole. Hole number 3 will be up on the hillside, and it'll be a short little fun golf hole. The topography is really wonderful for a golf hole up there. And then there used to be a golf hole that played down the hill. It was a par 4 down the hill over to here. We're now breaking that up into two golf holes, and this helps us make up for the golf holes that we're losing. So you have a little short par 3, hole number 4 here that'll play downhill, and then a 5th hole here that'll play to new green. Hole number 6 is virtually the same hole, just everything is new and fresh, and then hole number 7 is also a par 4 that currently wraps around this little pond, and we are going to break that up into 2 golf holes as well. Then we'll cross back over the bridge and play hole number 9. Now currently hole number 9 plays right here, but with the expansion of the driving range, that's an unsafe situation. So we're going to eliminate this golf hole, but we're going to maintain this existing golf green here, and that can be used for practice. Something that there's one over here right now that the 18-hole or the 27-hole golf users use, but it'll be nice to have one over here, whether it's for lessons or for just individual practice. One of the things that I want to point out too that we did when designing these golf greens is one of the features over at the Fred Richards, which is closing, that was really nice that a lot of the users liked, was the fact that there was 2 pins. So if you played at one time, you could play to the pin on the left or the pin on the right. The next time you could come back around and play it again to a different pin location, and then it can alter. That, along with the fact that we're going to have multiple tees, will allow users to come and play this more than once, even in a day, and still get a different golf experience. There is more to talk about in terms of water quality, but I'll let Ross talk about that if he's ready.
Before you bring Ross up, could we ask a few questions?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Does anybody else have a question they want to ask? All right, I'll ask you a few questions. With respect to the proposed teeing area for the new range, you've got 102,800 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of turf are you thinking about using, and with the sort of pressure that will be on this range because of its location and its quality, will Mr. Swenson be able to adequately manage the turf so that there's always turf that people are hitting off of as opposed to mats, except during the shoulder seasons when it's appropriate that they be hitting off mats?
Yes, it's a low-cut bluegrass, which does take many days to germinate. I think it takes 14 days to germinate, and then they continue to grow from there. However, one of the things I do want to note, and this will help in answering your question, is currently right here is where the existing range tee ends. So this is the only area here. So if day 1 you're teeing off from here and you're chewing that up, then you'd move to here, then you continue to move up in stations where there's adequate turf. Right now, it probably only has enough to do that maybe 7-8 times before they have to go back and start playing on this area that probably hasn't healed yet. So we're also doubling the width or the depth of the range tees so that you'll have twice as much time now to heal some areas that have been used up. So I would assume that this would be that the turf quality would be a lot better.
Okay, that's good on the range.
Oh, another thing too is that with new irrigation and new drainage, that's all going to help the entire ability for the grass to grow.
Yeah, I would think so. And of course, we know that this is the place where we make the money.
Yes.
At Braemar. I mean,
Yeah.
more so than any other element of the course. If we sell a bucket of balls for $8, it costs us $1.25 to push that bucket out the window, and that's a pretty good return. So I want to make sure that this range, I think we all do, we all want to make sure that this range has maximum income potential, but also delivers the quality experience to the golfer that we would be accustomed to in Edina for every other type of service that we're providing for our residents in the recreational area. Are you confident that we'll be able to do that?
I think this is going to be one of the premier driving ranges in the metro area. I think people are going to come not just from Edina, but from all over to use this facility.
All right. Now, one of the things that caught my attention were the costs of the project, the range and the course combined, and it really, I don't know if bother is the right word, but I got some concerns about when I look at your plan, which is, I know it would be a great plan, but I'm just wondering, when we think about where we want to spend the money and get the most bang for our buck, it's the driving range to me, and then it's the big course, and we haven't even, it's not going to be until this coming Monday night that residents in our town are going to see for the first time the ideas that our architect has for the big course. And so the par 3 course, you're suggesting that we make all the greens a uniform size at 5,000 square feet so we can have 2 pins. I really question, frankly, whether people at Fred Richards like the 2 pins, because I think most people went for the easier pin. And I'm not sure it's a good use of money to spend an extra $200,000 to $500,000 to create uniform size greens at for $200,000 to $500,000 more. And also, I'm unsure about the teeing areas. And the reason I'm questioning the teeing areas and want some input from both you and probably Tom Swenson is that I see 3 tee boxes on every hole. And some of these holes don't have more than 28 yards of separation, like number 2, between the forward tee and the back tee. And it strikes me that from a maintenance cost standpoint, you'd want to be trying to make sure that, I mean, you could do a 28-yard long single teeing area and just move the tee markers back and forth, as opposed to creating 3 separate tees that, it strikes me, stand the risk of, when people are using only irons, they could be all dirt by the time you get halfway through the season. So I'm concerned about costs of 3 tees per hole, the efficiency of maintenance and the cost of maintenance. Why wouldn't it be smarter to just do in some circumstances, a single teeing area where you could just make it long enough so you could move it around? If you could address some of those issues, and Mr. Swenson can address the maintenance costs of 3 separate tees on a little course like this versus single tees that are stretched out, I think that would be an important thing for us to consider as a council before we sign off on spending an extra. Well, I guess the base bid is $1.2 million estimate, and you're suggesting that we spend another $200,000 to $500,000 to do 2 pins and all these other things. So let's hear a little bit more about that.
Yep. Okay. Well, in relation to the tee boxes, the majority of the ones, well, except for hole number 1, hole number 2, the reason that's set up like that is basically because of terrain. You're kind of building
the dip.
Right, it's going down, so you're trying to terrace the tees in, and to build one big tee would either be chopping off the top of the hill or we'd be filling off the edge of the hills, and we're trying to reduce the amount of earthwork because that just makes the cost of the project go up. So we're trying to bench these tees in there the best we can, and you'll find that's the situation on hole number 2, hole number 3, hole number 4, hole number 5, a little bit on hole number 6. Now, hole number 7 would be an area where I guess you'd call these runway tees, and they were popular back during the 70s and 60s when there was a lot of resort courses and they just wanted one big, huge, long runway tee. One of the things that we have to consider when doing that here, too, is that we are in a floodplain, and so the amount of material that we were bringing into the floodplain, we had to make sure we were compensating for that in other areas. And so we've done some very complex cut and fill estimates and floodplain calculations on this in order to make sure that we're and actually, we're in a good situation right now where we're creating more storage on the site than what was there before. But That's a relationship when you start to see that in hole number 7, and hole number 9, and hole number 1. Those are probably the longest 3 golf holes that are out here. And knowing and understanding the clientele that do use this golf course quite a bit, we wanted to make sure that we gave them opportunities to move up, or in some cases, if you wanted to be challenged, you can move back. So, because we do have the land a little bit on hole number 1 and 9 in order to get a little bit more length. Now, in terms of the greens,
what about the cost per tee box? Cost of construction per tee box? What's that, roughly?
Well, it depends on each tee box. If you're building into a hillside, or if you're just building a flat tee and you're just bringing in some soil and building it up, there is the cost of the greens mix. There's the cost of the sod and the turf. So you might be looking at about $5-6 a square foot, and that's not including any irrigation or any drainage that might go around it.
Okay. Did you have another comment? I mean, here's what I'm concerned about. I think at the par 3, we know we can't charge as much because it's a small course. You can't get as many people on the course because I think our experience is that people don't come out in foursomes generally to play in the par 3. It's a husband and wife. It's somebody with his child, and so you end up with a lot of situations where you got 2 people, maybe 3, sometimes 4 out on the course. And so when you think about it in terms of where's the bang for the buck, is it wise to spend this much money on the par 3 when we're going to have a significant expenditure coming on the big course? I don't know the answer to that, so I'm looking for guidance from you guys for this, because the biggest challenge I hear from people that play over there is that there's too much rough. There's too much rough. So that if there was no rough, the pins were easy. I'm still suspect about the need for 2 pins, and make it fun. And those are the kind of the key things you want on a par 3 to me. And to spend $1.6 million between the range and the par 3 seems to me like an extraordinary amount of money. Member Swenson. Well, you can answer. You can go ahead and try to.
Okay. Yeah.
Give me some guidance here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, a lot of these golf holes needed to happen because of the range. So that cost is sort of built in. We had, in order to expand the range and get the biggest bang for the buck on the range, we're losing 2 golf holes, actually 3 golf holes. So we need to make those up. And since we're already rebuilding new golf holes anyway, we figured that since we're in there, the cost to do it at this time in order to get these little extra greens or the more tee space would be the right time to do that. The course will stay in better condition by having the more tee space and the greens, for that matter, as you're not getting a lot of ball marks and a lot of compaction on the greens. It was our understanding that people actually did like the double pins at Fred Richards, and from an architect standpoint, I think that's kind of a neat little feature. Mm-hmm. You could always not do it. The greens will be fine just by having 1 pin, but to have that opportunity, I think that's kind of a neat thing. And so in some regards, a lot of this work had to be done anyway. So then at this point, then we had like the 2 or 3 golf holes that were left over after we had to make these other changes, and to make everything uniform and have this entire area be a brand new facility when you open it up, state-of-the-art facility. We didn't want to have 3 golf holes that were never touched and looked old compared to all the rest of the golf course.
Okay. All right. Member Swenson and Member Brindle.
I have a very strong golfing family. I'm a poor golfer, but I played this. I did show this plan to some people in my family. I think the things that for my family they're most excited about, because they range in age from the 6-year-old golfer all the way up to my age, which we won't be stating publicly, is that the parents were interested in being able to play with their kids on this course and have a different tee box than their children, or have a different view than their children. The parents, other than myself, are all very good golfers, and what you came up with actually intrigued them. So I'm not in the golf course design business. I've sat on a couple boards when golf courses were designed, so I have a little bit of knowledge, but this, for my family at least, the response was that they thought that your design had some real interest for different ages in a family playing, and they were excited to see what it would look like.
Well, excuse me. Thank you. And one of the things that you pointed out there was you talk about the 6-year-old, and that was taken into consideration was the youth that are just starting the game, and this is a great opportunity for them to start the game. And one of the things that we tried to do in this design was to eliminate all these forced carries where they're required to hit the ball over water. And there were a number of those already in the existing golf course, and with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 back tees where that might be the case, the remainder of the tees that shouldn't be the case.
No, I appreciated the change in the water. And I think actually the way you've designed it does speed up the play. One is a par 3, but just getting rid of the water carry part where you're forced to look for a ball or something like that, I think. And opening up where you now have 2 that used to be 3, that's really tight. So I get what you're doing, and I'm interested in how it will look.
Thank you.
Thanks. Member Brindle.
You know, the population that we really need to accommodate at Braemar Golf Course is the learners. And I think that I didn't play the Fred Richards course, so I can't say whether this is similar to it. But we virtually made a promise that we would have something that provides that experience at Braemar. And from what I see here, I would hope that does this. Like I said, I haven't played it. But it is the short course that I think young people will enjoy. The long course, even the short holes on the long course can be daunting to the infrequent golfer such as myself. And this is something that I think fits what we virtually promised to do, which was to provide that experience for those who are teaching youngsters to play golf, and families with youngsters who want to play together, as Member Swenson said. So I'm intrigued by it. I think we're forced into doing this short course at the same time as the driving range because it's part of what's being ripped up. And to put it back into a revenue-generating and playable surface, we kind of have to do it at the same time. It doesn't seem like we could do something else in the interim. We actually do have an 18-hole course, 27-hole course, if you will, that even in its current condition is very playable. And so in the short term, to put some efforts into this, get this area stable so the driving range and this short course can be enjoyed by everybody who wants to play it, I think is the right course.
And that was one of our goals when we designed this as well, was to make sure that it was not only fun and challenging, but a great place for the youth or anybody to start the game, the game of golf.
Great, thank you.
One of the things you mentioned was I guess it was in the memo, was bunkering, that you'd changed some bunkering. How many holes will have sand bunkers as opposed to grass bunkers? Or will there be any grass bunkers?
Well, I guess we're not going to necessarily call these grass bunkers, but there will be depressions around the green. We'll be improving drainage. And so in a way, they kind of act as a grass bunker. It's a low area near the green that...
I like your term better than mine.
Yeah, okay. But no,
because I do think those help speed up play as opposed to having a sand bunker. You know, so you...
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. And we have very few sand traps out here. Hole number 1, hole number 7, and hole number 8, the only ones that have sand. And the way that we've designed this, and what you don't see here is the grading, how it would be graded, is to make them very fair, and so they're very easy to hit out of. Just doing our site inventory, I saw a lot of golfers out here, and some of the I think hole number 1, I think I saw somebody take 3 or 4, maybe even 5 shots to try to get out of that bunker. And so that's not the goal of these bunkers. These are to be aesthetically pleasing, probably a little challenge, but also be easy to hit out of. Okay. Very playable.
Well, it's an important tool to learn to get out of on a small course before you go to a big course.
Yeah. Okay, other questions for Mr. Maker? We'll let,
Just, would you, the course that's been here has been an executive course, and this is now a par 3 course. Can you, for the audience, just explain the difference?
Sure. Well, the par 3 courses consisted of just par 3 golf holes. An executive golf course might have a few par 4s, might even have a par 5. And so what you had here before was a combination. You had some par 3 golf holes and you had some par 4 golf holes. But now we're getting rid of any par 4s, and they're all specifically just par 3.
And do those end up serving different subsets of the golf community?
They can. A par 4 allows people maybe to hit a driver once in a while. But I think the Braemar facility that you have right now, having the 27-hole golf course, this would be a great opportunity just to learn how to hit the ball. And then if you want to go over to the driving range, practice your skills and work on your skills, then go to the championship golf course or the 18 or even the Clooney 9. There you'd have the opportunity to play all the clubs in your bag. And some people can't hit a drive 190 yards like hole number 1 from the back tee. So in that case, they would still be using their driver.
Some of us have been known to take a driver out on a par 3.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Kevin?
Following up on the mayor's question on costs, do we have any expectations? I'm having a hard time. I don't have any idea how to figure out whether 1.5 million or 1.7 million or 1.2 million is a reasonable cost for this. Obviously, we're going to bid it at some point. We're going to find out. But do we have expectations or a budget or some number that we were expecting to see?
Member Staunton, we started thinking that this project was going to be probably in the $1.2 to $1.3 million range. And as we went through the discussions about closing Fred Richards Golf Course, we did listen very carefully to what we were hearing from our Fred Richards golfers about what they liked about that golf course. And we really wanted to try to do the best that we could as we were renovating this golf course to make improvements to meet the needs of all golfers in Edina and to try to attract those Fred Richards golfers to Braemar. As John mentioned, we were faced with some challenges and some opportunities. And the opportunities that we decided to include in the plan that you see in front of you tonight did increase the cost between $250,000 and $500,000. And part of that cost is increasing the size of the greens, because we did hear from a lot of Fred Richards golfers that they liked the 2-tee pin placement. And we also decided that since we are already going to be modifying over half of the new executive course, and we need irrigation on all the entire golf course at Braemar, that it would make sense to do the entire irrigation at the executive course. While we were doing that, then you look at the cost to modify the golf course, the cost to come back and add irrigation at a later date. And we just decided that it would be the most cost-effective and most efficient to make all those changes at one time. So that's where the increase in cost did come. Obviously, until we bid the project, we don't really know, what it's going to come in at. But that's our best estimate at this point.
So then, my mind, and this may be a conversation that we need to have at a later time as the bids come in and as we look at the more global picture. But my mind then goes to, well, how much money do we expect to make on it, or what are the pro formas? I mean, can we afford a 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.5? Have we done any of that thus far?
Member Staunton, we have, and we definitely intend to talk to you about those pro formas and about financing in February when we bring the bids to you.
And will we have some expectations, because I assume that the golf enterprises is the whole golf operation. It would include the 27-hole course as well. Are we going to have some expectations or projections about what those costs might be, or are we going to do this and then figure out what money we have left to do the rest of it?
As Mayor Hovland mentioned earlier this evening, we do have a really great opportunity coming next week where Richard Mandel, our golf course architect who is doing the master plan for the rest of the Braemar golf course, will be coming to Edina. He'll be presenting options, and we will get further cost estimates at that time. So we'll have some of those numbers and a really good idea of the proposals prior to asking the City Council to approve these bids.
Well, thanks for that. That's helpful, and I recognize some of these questions may be premature, but as this is unfolding, these are the kinds of things that are on my mind anyway.
Absolutely. I completely understand. Those are the same questions that are going through our minds as well.
Good.
I
Member
personally,
Swenson.
other than a pro forma, which I think is important to see what all these things bring forward, I've never thought that doing this project in any way should take away from what we plan to do on our main course. We're consolidating everything in one place. This is stages. This is the first stage. Actually, the first stage was consolidating. The second stage was this. The third stage will probably be tin fish opening. The fourth stage will have a final plan and how that will play out and what its costs are for the other 27 holes. But nowhere do I see this being something that takes away from our end plan. Our end plan is to have a really solid golf operation that has the ability to get close to breaking even, if not breaking even, and not be going in the opposite direction, which it's been doing in the last year. So I just need to say that publicly.
Yeah, well said.
Your Honor, the only thing I would add is that we're at a good time in the bidding cycle to have this discussion tonight. So you've provided some good design questions and comments to the designer, but in terms of getting into the bidding area and receiving bids and having some time to analyze them and to get the right folks engaged here, we're at a really good spot to do that. So one of the tricky things about doing a golf course project, of course, is timing, and timing is very critical to get it right.
And weather.
Weather, we can't
weather
control.
Weather is almost more than timing. Can I tell you that?
The timing is one that we have some control over, and we want to lose as little golf time as we can. So if we can get this out into the economy and get it bid, bring it back to you, and then make some judgments about how it's financed, what the pro forma says, and compare it to what we've shown you tonight, I think you can make a good decision then.
Thanks for that comment. Mr. Bittner, did you want to talk about the natural area concept development, which I think is a nice element of this that we hadn't really talked much about before.
I have a PowerPoint. Thank you. A couple of years ago when the golf course driving range first made it on the capital improvement plan, we noticed that we had a few project recommendations in our comprehensive water resource management plan that dealt with our clean water, flood protection, natural resource habitat goals in this area. So as the plan was being developed, we put our heads together with the Parks Department to try to see where we could gain some project synergies between that water quality project and the redevelopment of the golf course. So I'm going to talk about something completely different now, but it shares the same project space. So there's two different portions of this. On the screen are the project goals. It's essentially water quality, soil stability, the restoration of natural resources, and wildlife habitat. All those things have to happen in a way that's complementary to the golf enterprise. So the areas that you'll see on the plan that have been called out for the different treatments that I'm going to discuss, those were all drawn by the golf course architect with the golf operations and the golf enterprise in mind. So I'll talk about two different pieces of that. First, water quality. It's a simple and technical story, so I'll keep it short. There's areas that drain from light residential land use, currently untreated onto the golf course and into the nearby wetlands. It's some 60 acres. It carries with it sediment and pollutants like phosphorus that green up the waters. Because the driving range, the holes number 7, 5, and 8 are all being redone, and they currently wrap around a T-shaped water, which I'll show once that's actually here on the screen in kind of that yellow shade. There was an opportunity to expand that. We looked at a variety of other options. This was the most cost-effective to meet those flood protection and clean water goals. So it brings new treatment into our system, gets us closer to our goals for the watershed district and all the clean water goals that we have. The next piece, that's the sum total of the water resource piece. A complementary goal to those are the natural resource, natural habitat, soil stability pieces. Here, we would propose strategies in essentially 3 different treatments. One is in the ponds and right near the water bodies. Right now, they're a little bit unkempt looking. They grow up in all sorts of reeds. It's something where the golf course architect describes, someone hits a ball somewhere in that area and they don't see a splash, so they end up looking for it for 5 minutes and hold up play. So how do we make it better for both the clean water goal and also the golf goal? I'll describe the treatments in a little bit more in more detail later. The other is the rough, unplayed areas that aren't forest covered right now. We have some no-mow zones out there. There are, just unkept areas where we let different woody species grow up. We would be proposing, in those cases, oak savanna restorations or prairie restorations, all outside the field of play, but that have a really pleasing aesthetic that complements that golf use. The third, and I think an area that I'm most excited about, is in the forested areas where right now, it's just left to nature, and sometimes not necessarily just nature, but also the invasive species that we've brought in, like buckthorn, Siberian elm, to just grow wild. We're proposing to take a more active role in those, taking out all that understory underbrush of native or invasive species and replace it with a native fern look. So I'll give you some examples of some before or current, and then what it could potentially look like after. Another goal would be using some of these treatments around the golf course entrance and the intersection of Gleason and Dewey, which really presents the golf course and making it look like a planned appearance. So here's an example of the current entrance to the golf course looking out. There's a overflow parking lot there that sees very little use. It has a nice tree-lined boulevard area, but something on the bottom where you'd have essentially that long grass prairie with a very planful-looking border and trees. Keeping those areas, where you're not spending time and energy mowing areas that aren't in play, but giving them to nature and honeybees in a way that's consistent with our natural resources goals and improves the golf aesthetic. Going from those just no-mow unkempt areas to short grass wildflower prairies. This is something where we can cut the total improved cost or the total maintenance cost by about 2/3. Takes a little bit of time to get them going and looking really good, but once they're going, they naturally regenerate themselves, and you only have to come through with the crew essentially annually or twice annually to remove the woody species that come in. There's a lot of nice resources on Braemar, the Braemar property right now. A lot of old growth oaks that grew in full sunlight. You can see them on the bottom there. They're just being overwhelmed by the buckthorn. The birds perch up in there and they've got the buckthorn seeds with them, and they just start sprouting out there. So we would take a more active role in the management and get the prairies and wildflowers going underneath. This is all out of play, of course. And then in the understory area of the forested areas, taking a more active role so that when you're walking by them, it doesn't feel like just a wall of brush and thicket there, but instead you can see out into the woods. There's native ferns and wildflowers, and you can start to see a developing second-tier canopy in there. So that would take place through planting of plugs, management of those invasive species, and planting of trees and tubes. and just in general taking a more active role to the management of those natural areas. I've got a plan here that I have on the overhead screen. It provides a little bit more detail. I can point where these treatments happen. So the pattern, it's tough to see, but it's more of a grayer shade. Those areas along the driver on the golf course and along the Gleason Road would have that prairie type treatment. Up in the northern portion of the course, there's large wooded areas and then maybe about a 30 to 40 foot buffer along the north and northwest sides, getting into that active forest management. There's also wetland permitting challenges that are taking place, creation of new wetland and wetland buffer at 2 areas. That's at natural resource, and this core, that used to be that small T-shaped pond, widening that out for that water quality benefit.
Do you delineate those ponding areas, that long ponding area between 7 and 5, in some manner to help with water quality along the edges with grasses or prairie flowers or anything of that nature?
I would leave that up to the golf course architect. Here, for the water quality portion, we only need the water and its depth and its ability to settle out pollutants. It's what they're willing to accept.
Okay. All right. Were you finished?
Yep, I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Questions for Mr. Bentner? Member Brindle.
Looking at the wildflower area at the entrance, I think the Garden Council tried to do something there at some point, and it probably, just because of not being maintained or looked over, just returned to woody kinds of low growing plants that choked out what the wildflowers were. How can you maintain that? Is it somebody going in there and literally weeding out what shouldn't be there, or how does that get maintained?
Yeah. So there's a difference between no maintenance and low maintenance, and what we're practicing right now is no maintenance. So this would, I kind of described, a quarter to a third of the cost of, mowing or turf treatment. This would include, in the first 2 years, a more intensive establishment period, and even mowing in those areas as those native perennial plants start to, grow their root systems and they get powered up. Once you're in years 2 and 3 and they've got their root systems established and you're really starting to see the flowering happen, then it's a crew that comes in twice a year and is doing spot spray herbicide for any invasives that they see, pulling out the woody vegetation. So it is an active management, and it's more than zero for the total amount of maintenance, but it's also one that synchronizes really well with our stormwater utility, and that's the source of funds here, where we want to create an example that really accentuates the native species, the wildflowers, and the wildlife habitat.
So is this a prairie that we're kind of leading toward?
So yeah, different prairie. It was the first oak savanna underneath
Okay.
the tall oaks, and then a forest.
Right. And in the prairie, does that one of the maintenance methods is to have a controlled burn in that area every few years? Is that planned for this, or what is that kind of maintenance? How are you going to do that?
That wouldn't be in the first 5 years. You have to get a good mass of vegetative material, but over the long term, that would be a maintenance method where you'd have prescribed burns every 4 to 5 years.
And I know there are people who come in and do that. There's a home in Indian Hills that has this done,
Yep.
and some friends of ours also have this done on their property. So in saying that, I just want to make sure people understand that it's a prescribed method,
Yeah.
and it is done by professionals.
And we'll call the fire department before we start the
The chief's right in the back. He's paying attention. Well, you brought a complementary improvement here to this golf course project that I don't think any of us ever envisioned being this significant, but it's tremendous. It's beautiful work by all of you on this.
I don't
also see it as making the course way more interesting.
Absolutely.
And intriguing. And when it's open, it's actually more playable because you're not trying to fight buckthorn and poison ivy to find your ball. Neither is great.
Director Catry, you have other things that you want to visit with the council about relative to this?
Mr. Mayor, could I just jump in
yes,
before we let Mr. Bittner go? I just wondered if you could talk for a minute. You touched on it in a couple of different ways, but I think this is a great example of a real opportunity from us on stormwater management. You know, we've got this great recreational facility, but it also has lots of green space and a way to kind of have a win-win with creating effective stormwater management, both from flood control as well as water quality perspectives. Can you talk a little bit about how that fits into what you're trying to accomplish with some terrific aesthetic and kind of course design options?
Right. I guess my reaction to the comment is, as an engineer, I see it come out in the budget numbers, where I see things that the golf course architect had already planned that synchronize really well with the goals of the comprehensive water resource management plan, and suddenly you're spending, $1 for two purposes and saving money for both projects where they would have been done, potentially separately and had a lesser outcome for both projects. So, being able to mix the different goals of the enterprise and the utilities in the same place and in the same project, I think you discover some, as that project team cross-pollinates, oh, what about the habitat for the bees? Is that something that we want on the course?
Right.
And when you think of the national courses, the Audubon Society has different ratings for the national courses. Fred Richards was a classically designated one. This one with the treatment that's going on this proposed 9 would set us up for that or higher levels of management based on those ratings.
Well, I think it's great that you get your eye on both at the same time, and it's it's just such a great opportunity to kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. Thank you. Yeah, well, I don't want to. The Audubon Society will be upset with me. Or find home for two birds with one stone. There you go.
Thank you very much. This really was an exciting opportunity for us to partner with the engineering department, and it really gave us a good opportunity for us to further our vision of making Braemar Park more than just a golf facility. And we look forward to working with the engineering department. Ross has been amazing. Laura Adler was terrific, and Bar Engineering was a really good partner for us in this project as well. So we look forward to working with them as we further the master plan for Braemar Golf Course. So the last thing that I wanted to show you this evening was, Jen, if I can go back to the PowerPoint, just the project timeline. This is our proposed project timeline, and if the City Council authorizes bids, we will have bids on the street in a couple of weeks, later in January, and we would plan to have a project approval in front of you probably sometime in February. And with that, the rest of my team and I would stand for any other questions you might have.
Questions for anyone? Member Brindle?
I think this is for Ross Bentner. In the Bar Engineering report, it talks about diverting stormwater from one location to another through a pipe. I just want to be sure that that pipe is run on park property. Is it all park property that it's being run on?
Yes, you're referring to the different scenarios, options A, B, and C.
Right.
So that was early in the decision-making process. We chose the option A, pond expansion. The other two won't take place in the current plan.
Oh, okay. Very good. All right. Thank you.
Other questions for the team? Mr. Mank, can you stand up for a second? I just want to make sure you understand that I didn't, I'm not critical of your design. I think it looks wonderful, and it looks like it'll be a wonderful spot, but I just had some of those concerns I wanted to go over with you all. So, any other questions for staff? All right, good. And thanks for your good work and your team.
Do we need to make a motion?
All right, we need a motion on bid authorization here for both the driving range and the executive course.
Can it be together, or do you need separate ones?
Can be together.
So moved.
Second? Go ahead, Kevin.
All right, we got a motion and a second to authorize the advertisement of bids for the driving range and the executive course projects. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. All right, great. Next step. Looking forward to it. And looking forward to next week as well with some interesting things yet to come. All right. Correspondence petitions. Anything else other than what was on the dais?
No.
Manager Neal. And then aviation noise update, either Member Swenson or Manager
Excuse me,
Neal.
Mayor Hovland, you need to receive that petition, to actually take a motion receiving the petition under B.
Oh, thank you. Under 9B, receive the petition requesting the acquisition of Weber Woods. All right. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second? Got a motion and a second to receive the petition requesting the acquisition of Weber Woods.
Just one comment.
Discussion.
I think it's worth noting that we have made an offer. I think the city manager has been working with others to make a very respectable offer, and so it's great to receive the petition, but it looks like we're working ahead of that. So
Do we
Good.
have any status?
We have no status, so they've acknowledged the receipt of the offer, that they are considering it, and have not given us a timeline when they will get back to us.
Okay.
I've got to go back up into the correspondence petition section. There was an item from Mr. Nolan who had forwarded this advisory
Item 9C.
communication. Yeah, 9C. Did anyone wish to address that from a council
But
standpoint?
we have to vote on
you don't
receiving the
think
petition, right?
Right, we had a motion and a second. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Motion and second on the petition. All those in favor of accepting the petition regarding the acquisition of Weber Woods, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you, folks. And then on to the correspondence from the Edina Transportation Commission advisory communication regarding Birchcrest B, Valley View Road sidewalk. The recommendation from the ETC was that there be a consideration given to a modification of the existing plan that's already been approved by the council, and it's been approved for preliminary letting of bids. I know Member Brindle and I talked about it today, and Member Brindle had an issue I think she wanted to raise relative to this matter.
Well, we have an approved sidewalk plan, and this sidewalk is in the plan. So while the sidewalk may not be installed soon, want to make sure that the street is constructed in a manner that the sidewalk can be installed in the future without too many issues. So if design of the roadway, its position, the road width, and all of that can be modified without increasing the cost of the project, I have no idea. But if it can be, and taking those things into consideration, and have it be designed in a manner that allows the sidewalk to go in when the time is right, I would like to find out if we have that ability.
Mayor, members of council, first I want to clear up, this is strictly from the ETC. Marks wasn't a part of that communication.
Right.
Second, if you
Understood.
recall, when we had the public hearing for Birchcrest, we had two designs. One was with a sidewalk and one was without, and the one without was approved last December 2013. So the design that's accepted was keeping the majority of the curb in place. The other design had us shifting that roadway 2 to 4 feet to accommodate a sidewalk with less impacts on the north side of that roadway. We could construct it the way it is now. That was approved, that's been awarded. It would just create more impacts, like we talk about with sidewalks in the future when we did do that. To address Councilmember Brindle's comments, we could shift that road 2 to 4 feet and have less impacts in the future for road reconstruction. What we'd like to do is take this communication, look at the numbers. It will cost more, but some of that's going to be utility funds, some could be PACs, and then come back to you in February with response to this advisory communication to see what those numbers are so you can make an informed decision based on those potential costs. It's not an imminent thing that needs to be done within the next couple weeks. We have until basically April with construction season starting. So I think we can provide you some better information during the month of February after we take some time to look at this.
I would like to add into the mix to look at the option that Mr. Thielemann brought tonight of, I have no idea how possible it is to acquire access along Highway 100 and 62 to put a trail in that would replace the need for the Valley View sidewalk. So is it possible to look at that option as well to find out how possible that would be?
We can make some calls to MnDOT to see their liking to that idea. There is not room today. It's very tight with the church right away or church property and then also the other property. So today there isn't room. They would have to allow us room, and I don't know if we'd have to acquire that easement. That could be a pretty expensive endeavor to either purchase the property outright for that trail or easements to allow us. So, and then we got safety concerns being next to different MnDOT facilities, the off-ramp, on-ramp, and then we have the concern and cost of crossing over the bridge at the railroad that he brought forward tonight. So we can begin some of those preliminary discussions. And
I think it would be good to address it because this is not the first time this idea has been brought in front of us. So if it has a good look, then we can understand its pros and its cons and be able to better understand how possible it would be.
I think getting some definitive information from MnDOT as to their thoughts on this too would be appropriate, because it is an idea that I thought was quite creative when it was brought to us during this conversation on the project itself. So, people comfortable on the council with this sort of an approach? We'll take a look at it in February and see if it makes some sense. I don't know. I'm still concerned, I guess, that if we thought it made some sense, would we have to reopen and have another public hearing? Or I'm uncertain as to what we would do there.
What's my understanding, maybe it's a question for Roger, but you approved the contract. It would be a change order that the council could approve us to go ask the contractor to provide a cost for that change order if you decided to shift that roadway to provide room in the future for a sidewalk.
Okay. So the fact that we've had a public hearing and we've chosen a plan that doesn't involve having a sidewalk, and then if we would subsequently theoretically decide to narrow the roadway to accommodate a sidewalk at some point in the future, that wouldn't require supplemental public testimony, in your opinion?
You could have it if you wanted to, but you're not assessing for the sidewalk, because that's correct.
Or the curb and gutter.
Right, so that you wouldn't have to, but you could.
Because that was why you had to.
Yeah.
I think we had the example, though, on Cornelia, that if you don't build the road with the intention of having a sidewalk, for instance, originally the sidewalk on Cornelia was going to be on the east side, but since there was no sidewalk, we moved fire hydrants into spots that we normally would have had the sidewalk on the east side. We complicated our lives. I think Member Brindle is hoping that we don't complicate our lives here, and I think she has a strong point. So I see its value in looking at it. I would want to know, though, that it didn't change what's happening to the neighborhood.
Right.
As far as cost. I think we were pretty careful last year when the company that is going to build that new roadway asked us to put off their deadline to build it for a year. So we have to be careful not to compromise that.
Agreed. Other thoughts? People comfortable with that generally?
Yep.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion on that, do we? Just the directive is fine. Okay. Now to aviation noise update. Anything, Manager Neal?
Just a very short one to let you know that we have booked Metropolitan Airports Commission staff to appear before the City Council on February 3rd. We will have them speak during the special presentation section to give you to share the information on the recent noise study with you, and also to provide you some interpretation and take questions from council.
It isn't a public hearing, obviously, so then the residents who come to see it won't be able to ask questions, but they can certainly send questions to us ahead of time of things that they're concerned about.
They certainly can.
But if we could put it out as a city extra, that would be great.
Okay.
We also have a knock meeting in Richfield on Wednesday, January 21st. It's at 1:30 and usually lasts a couple hours. At least that's my experience. And it will be at the Richfield City Hall.
What's the date?
Wednesday, January 21st.
Okay. All right, on to mayor and council comments. Member Stewart.
I'm happy to be here. The process of the election has given me a chance to meet many, many people in the community. The chance to hear their viewpoints, to learn what their concerns are, and to be out there. And now, since being elected, I've heard from many people in the community who wanted to share some viewpoints on some things. And it's been a real learning curve for me, but a real pleasurable one. I've appreciated the assistance both of former council members Sprague and Bennett, as well as my new council member colleagues in helping me learn what I need to learn, and I look forward to serving this community for 4 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Brindle.
All right. Thank you. One thing that was mentioned briefly earlier is that Richard Mandel is going to hold an open house. Is it at the golf course on Monday?
Braemar, 6 o'clock, I think.
At 6 o'clock Monday?
I think so.
At the golf course clubhouse?
Right.
Okay. So, and it is a public open house. It is short notice because I believe he gave us short notice that he was coming. So we're giving short notice that he's here. So he will be nonetheless having an open house on Monday, talking about some ideas that he has. There's nothing official, nothing written in stone, but just what he sees as potentials for Braemar Golf Course in the official course, right? The 27 holes?
Correct. Championship.
Okay.
Yep, all 27.
Championship, thank you. The championship 27 holes. All right, a couple things. On January 20th, we are going to hear from Bloomington Public Health. And a couple of months ago, we got the report. And I want to make sure that our new council members get that report as well. So, because I don't believe they were getting a packet at the time that that report came out.
I don't remember, but we'll look back and get
Okay.
it for you. Yeah.
Yep. It is an annual report from Bloomington Public Health. And then I am a member of the 494 Corridor Commission, and we are having a legislative delegation breakfast on Friday, January 30th, 8 o'clock at the Richfield City Hall. It's a popular place. And it's actually a great facility at about 66th and Portland. And we will be meeting with legislators and talking about transportation and the projects that we want as a region along 494, and how best to get those accomplished and funded, I guess primarily funded, within this legislative session. So we'll be looking forward to meeting with Senator Franzen and Representatives Rosenthal and Earhart, and Yvonne Seltzer is often there, and Rest is often there. So it's a great session because it really tells you what's possible and who can help you do it. So at the state capitol. And are you talking about diesel?
No, you can do
Okay.
Okay.
Diesel, Police K-9 Diesel retired at the end of December. and we were quickly putting together a retirement party for him when he suddenly became ill and had to be put down over this last weekend. A very tragic, sad event, because he gave his 8 years of service to the city of Edina, and we were hoping that he would enjoy a retirement in Edina. And so it's with heavy hearts that we reach out to the Seeger family. Mike Seeger was his handler in the police department, and they are every bit the companions and partners in the department as your human partner would be, and maybe more so. And so just want to send those words of compassion out.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Member Swenson.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the council for appointing me mayor pro tem. Usually it's by seniority, so I can't tell you I've done this really outstanding job previously. I'm just the more senior person to the mayor, but I accept it, and I'm thrilled to be the mayor's backup. I'd also like to thank the communication department. They did a great job in the press release for our offer on Weber Woods. It was a pleasure to read about it in the newspaper, and something positive that the city was doing with St. Louis Park, trying to maintain some parkland. So that was really great. So thank you very much. That's all.
Good. Member Stoughton.
Well, I'd echo Councilmember Stewart's comments. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to serving the city and working with a tremendous council. I would just add to that we had the great opportunity, thanks to Manager Neal, to meet with staff for I think it was 9 hours of orientation on a couple of different days over the December stretch, and I learned a lot, but I probably learned more about what I don't know than what I do know. So I'm looking forward to that capable support and resource as we move on with our task. So I'm very much looking forward to the task over the next 4 years. One event that I thought I would bring up that I heard about today is on Saturday at Centennial Lakes from 8 until 4:30 p.m. Quinn's Cup is being held, and for those who don't know, it is named for Quinn Kirsch, a young man from Edina who tragically passed away a couple of years ago from a congenital heart disease. And it's going to be quite an event. There's going to be, as I understand it, 29 teams of mites and squirts, 375 players on 4 rinks. And I heard today that we owe a lot of thanks, Manager Neal, to your staff, and in particular Tom Shirley for some terrific work. There was great nervousness a couple of weeks ago when the temperatures rose, but there is now...
Fortunately.
Exactly. So there's now plenty of ice out there, and I hear it's just a terrific atmosphere, and it'll be really a lot of fun. And encourage folks to go out and watch. There'll be funds raised through various vendors, and I understand it's all going to the Myocarditis Foundation, which is the kind of insidious disease that took Quinn's life, and so encourage people to get out and enjoy that event. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I want to personally welcome both of you to the council. I think it'll be a wonderful period of time that we serve with both of you, and look forward to working with you. From an event standpoint, just a reminder for all of us that the Municipal Legislative Commission, of course, as you may recall, is an organization. There's roughly, I think, 16 cities that belong to it. We are one of the members. It's city managers and mayors that typically meet once a quarter. I'll be the chair again this year. And our first legislative breakfast, Member Brindle mentioned the 494 Corridor Coalition legislative breakfast on the 30th. Our first legislative breakfast, where we should all try to attend, will be on the 16th of January, a week from Friday, at the Plymouth Crown Plaza in Plymouth. And I forget how many cities will be involved in this particular breakfast, but probably six or eight.
Yeah, I think 6
cities with all of their legislative delegations representing them. So I would encourage you to try to attend that. That's 7:30 to 9 o'clock on the 16th. And then the only other matter I had was I had that email from Jane Lonquist. Was wondering about signage, the appetite of the council to send this issue of potential historic signage to the Heritage Preservation Board for them to look at it to see if it made any sense for the country club.
Yep, I think it's a great
And
idea.
if it made sense to the council, I think we could just direct that the matter be referred on to the Heritage Preservation Board and have them take a look at the appropriateness of it.
I'm good
Everybody
with it.
comfortable with that? Do we need a motion? We could, yeah. You want to make a motion, Member Stewart? All right, Member Stewart, we got a motion and a second that we request the Heritage Preservation Board to look at the issue of whether historic signage would be appropriate for the Country Club District. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. And, yeah, thank you. We have a town hall meeting Saturday, January 10th at Edina City Hall, 10 to 11:30, and that is with our legislative delegations, Senator Franzen, Representatives Rosenthal, and Earhart, 10 to 11:30 this coming Saturday.
We'll be here. You're looking, no?
Not you,
Not us. No. But, yep,
Yep.
yep. We just made an announcement for them, gratis.
Okay.
We'll bill them later for it.
Good.
Okay. Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. Along those same lines, you have, as a council, a joint meeting with that same group of people on February 3rd. That will be our work session that night. All three, Senator Franzen, Representatives Rosenthal and Earhart, have all committed to that night, so they can all be there. Their schedules are a little up in the air now that they've started back to work in St. Paul, but at this time they've all committed. Just to let you know, our offices are closed for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on January 19th. We have our council meeting on the 20th. That is the night of your team photo. So we'll be doing other photos that day too. But for the council, that's where we put you together, and we'll do that probably immediately prior to the council meeting. I want to plug again the NLC trip for the Congressional Cities Conference. There's some pretty attractive airfares right now. We looked at some today.
You were going to give us, though, the date that we needed to come to make sure that we hit that meeting, so I've been kind of waiting to get back to you on that.
March 7th is the Saturday. That the aviation noise meeting is scheduled for Sunday the 8th.
So we need to get in on March 7th.
Yeah.
And then the departure date Wednesday, there was some issue.
Can be the 10th or the 11th, either one.
Okay, there's no conflict with the meeting that if we leave on the 10th, we miss it?
No, because we're going to be, like we did last year, we're going to be moving you to meetings with our legislative reps, independent of that large kind of group meeting that
I
DNLC
didn't
does.
want to miss that.
Yep.
Independent,
Yeah, it would be
that
nice
meeting.
to not have to squeeze that in or make a choice to go or not.
Yeah.
So maybe leaving on the 11th would be
Would
better.
It would. I think it
Okay.
would be more
I
comfortable
think
for you
that's
if
a
you can
good
do
point,
it.
Mary.
Okay.
But we've
Turning
looked
on
at
the
some direct airfare directed to Reagan National for $300 or less, so it's a pretty good deal right now.
Very good.
And that's all I have for you.
Okay. All right. Anything else from anyone on the council?
No.
All right. We stand adjourned. We have no HRA work this evening. So that concludes our work for the evening.